Good morning. Yeah, so this is my second podcast, basically talking about fantasy football, these DFS picks. I am not very good at editing, so I'm just gonna just go all the way through and do this live, essentially, like I did the last video. Let's talk about that Thursday night game, the very first podcast I did. Let's look at the results. Unfortunately, we only cashed in one of the lineups, and we did not cash in the actual cash lineup that I put. Let's see. Let's go to the history here. So, yeah, unfortunately, it was just one, but I mean, hey, at least we hit with one, you know what I mean? Like, it could have been zero. But for me, I put in a $1 entry, and that's the one I cashed in. So that was that Mike Williams lineup. So I knew he was going to be relatively low owned coming off that bad game. So he was 6% as a captain, which is very low. And then the main thing we messed up on was Travis Kelce. I mean, he just did not have the game that I thought he was going to have. I mean, I had him in all my lineups, so the fact that he cost so much money and he only got us 10 points, I mean, it didn't kill us in this lineup, but I mean, it definitely hurt us in the cash. It hurt us in the other lineup where we made him our captain. The one good thing though, I mean, Everett, he like I said, he had a good game. I mean, it wasn't anything astounding. It sucks he got tackled on the 1 yard line or 2 yard line, and then he was so tired at the end, and he got the touchdown target, and he just could not run the route. He was so tired. I mean, he was trying to signal off to the side and be like, take me out," and then Herbert ended up throwing a pick there at the end for like a pick six, and it was just, I mean, things fantasy football. It's volatile. I mean, you never know what's going to happen, but overall, I mean, this lineup did well. I mean, Mike Williams is the captain. That was a good one. So let's look at the other lineups that we had and kind of analyze where we went wrong there. I don't want to spend way too much time on this because this video could be potentially really long. I didn't put way too much money on this Thursday night slate just because I don't know, I didn't really feel like it. I wish I would have put the Mike Williams stack as the Thursday Night Millionaire. I mean, I would have cashed like, I don't know, $27 or something. I was looking at with that fantasy point. So in this double up, we didn't do badly. I mean, like my whole theory with the low floor players, like it kind of worked for the most part. I mean, because Everett had a pretty low floor, Mahomes had a low floor, Herbert had a low floor, but the thing is they were all highly owned. And where we messed up was Kelce. So if we had to switch Kelce out with somebody like Austin Eckler, who had a decent game, he was getting a lot of targets there at the end in garbage time. He was also uh, targeted a lot because Keenan Allen was out, and I mean, I didn't really necessarily see that coming because he wasn't utilized as much. And I mean, they had a bunch of other running backs in at the goal line, like Sony Michel. He got a couple goal line carries. And then there was one other guy. It's not Justin Jackson, is it? Yeah, and he switched teams. The other running back for the Chargers, he got some goal line carries. He got a lot of work. So we kind of messed up there with Kelce. If we would have just switched him out for Eckler or even like Clyde Edwards-Helaire or somebody, we could have done better. DeAndre Carter, he did okay. It ended up being Joshua Palmer, more of a Joshua Palmer type game. I mean, he ended up with 13 points, and that was kind of like our 50-50. I was like, you could either put Palmer in or you could put DeAndre Carter in. So, yeah, I mean, it didn't turn out horribly. Like, we were really close to cashing, but, I mean, it's either all or nothing, right? So, but, all right, on to the next week. Let's look at these morning slates. So, I'm going to be playing the $20 Milli Maker, and then I'm going to be doing, like, another double up as well for cash. So, yeah, this is the one that I'm going to be doing, and it's going to be the 1 p.m. games and then the 4:30 games as well. So first things first, I made this whole Word document, and I mean, I spent maybe like 2 or 3 hours on it this morning. So Let's take a look. So these are the games that I'm going to be targeting. So first things first, I mean, if you guys are new to fantasy football, I'm sure some of you aren't, but you want to look at the point totals, right? So the higher the point totals is like the projected amount of points that a team is gonna or the game is gonna be. So you wanna target these higher like point total games. So I've got the Commanders and the Lions, and then the Rams Falcons, and then I've got Cardinals Raiders and the Texans and Broncos. So let's break these down a little bit. Um, so this one, I really, really love targeting people in this Commanders Lions game. I mean, they are gonna score a lot of points. I actually see it going over the point total. So Vegas has the Lions predicted to win by 1.5. So the point total here is projected to be 25 to 23. So it's gonna be a close game. I love Carson Wentz as a play, even in cash. I mean, he's cheap. Like week one, let's take a look at week one. I mean, he got like 30 fantasy points or something like that. Let me just create a new lineup here, and then we can just kind of look over some stats. So Wentz, he had 32.7 fantasy points. That's really good. I mean, his quarterback rating 101. I mean, he had an excellent game, and I mean, he was playing against the Jaguars, so I mean, the Lions just gave up a lot of passing yards to AJ Brown. Um, right here, I got this stat right here. So it's 10 receptions, 155 yards. And he got like, let's say, I think it was like 30 plus fantasy points. So I think the passing will be big here. So I've got Curtis Samuel and Dotson as some cheaper options. I think these are good value plays. I mean the rule of thumb here is to get 3 times the salary in points. So let's say $4,600 for Curtis Samuel. So that means he needs roughly 13-ish fantasy points because 4 times 3 is 12, and then the remainder is like 1.8. So it's going to be like a 13.8 fantasy point game for him to return his value. So Dotson, I mean, Curtis Samuel had like 20 points. Dotson had close to 20 points. I had them both pretty heavily owned in my first week's lineups. So I think those are good plays again. McLaurin, he really, I mean, I got him highlighted in yellow because it's like an iffy play. I mean, I'm not super high on him, but you could throw him in your lineup as well. I'm just not sure if he'll return value because of his poor performance in that first game. But we'll see. I think all of these guys are pretty good plays. Antonio Gibson, so he had like, let's take a look back over here. He had, I want to say it was 7 targets in that first game, and in a PPR format like this, when he gets the receptions, that is a big deal. He had 8 targets, 7 receptions, so I got the receptions. So, I mean, 14 attempts, 58 yards, 41 or 4.1 a carry. That's very good fantasy output. And the Eagles, I mean, they ran all over the Lions last week. I mean, Miles Sanders had a touchdown, Kenneth Gainwell had a touchdown, and why can't I remember the running backs' names? But the third Eagles running back had a touchdown too, I want to say, and Jalen Hurts had like a rushing touchdown too. So Antonio Gibson, smash play. He's cheap. Put him in all of your lineups. I mean, I need Antonio Gibson in all of my lineups this week. He's a good play. People were low on him to start the season, but I always had faith in Antonio Gibson. I mean, he was being drafted super late. I don't understand why people were so low on him. I was never low on him. All right. So let's go on the other side of the ball. So we got DeAndre Swift. He is obviously a PPR machine. I would definitely keep an eye on him because he is questionable for this game. I'm less likely to play Swift just because of that question mark. I mean, his ankle's a little bummed out, so there's some chance of re-injury there. So I'm not like super high on DeAndre Swift this week, but I mean his fantasy points. I mean you can't argue with 29.5 fantasy points. I mean that's getting value because we need 21 points from Swift to cash. That's the rule of thumb. So Swift is good. If he's questionable, go Jamal Williams, smash play for sure. I mean he's a PPR running back. He'll get all the goal line carries. He got all the goal line carries anyway. I mean, DeAndre Swift got 29.5 fantasy points, but Jamal Williams got 2 touchdowns. I mean, just imagine if DeAndre Swift got those 2 touchdowns. He would have had like a 40-point fantasy week. So DeAndre Swift, definitely high on him. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown. Why is he priced so low? I don't understand why he's priced so low still. I mean, he was hyper targeted. Let's take a look at where he's at. Amon-Ra. We got 20 fantasy points in that first game. I mean, it's 12 targets. Like, he's gonna be consistently targeted that much. He only got 64 yards. I mean, he's got the potential for so much more. I'm super high on Amon-Ra St. Brown all season. He's an elite athlete. Nobody else on that Lions team has the receiving ability that he has. DJ Chark was also on my list. He's a little bit high priced just because we haven't seen that much consistency out of him so far. In the last couple of years, he's been iffy. But he returned value for sure. That first week, he was way cheaper. I think he was around like 4,000. I can't see where his price was week 1, but he definitely is. Oh, there it is, 4,800. So that's not bad. I mean, not a bad price. I don't know if I would be super high on him in cash or GPPs, but he's definitely an option, a viable option there. So that is it for the Redskins-Lions game. There are a couple other players there that you could potentially grab, but I'm not super high. I'm just going to touch base on the higher-owned people that I really like. All right, on to Rams-Falcons. Over-under is 46 points, which is not that high, but Rams are favored 10 points. So that is a lot of fantasy output for the Rams. It's 28 points projected to score total. So that's around 4 touchdowns or maybe 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals. Stafford had a bad first week. His elbow was a problem. And, I mean, he did not look Stafford-esque. Like, he did not look like the Stafford we knew. I think he has a bounce-back week here against the Falcons. I think that they can really take advantage of that Falcons secondary. I mean, as reference, Jameis Winston threw 269 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he got 21.7 fantasy points against Falcons week 1. And Jameis Winston, I'm not high on him. I mean, they even had Taysom Hill in the game for a little bit as quarterback, and I mean that fantasy output does not lie. I mean, to get value, rule of thumb, right? 19 points for Stafford roughly. I mean, I guess it's like 18.9 if you want to get super specific. But yeah, so Stafford definitely in play. I like him a lot this week. He might be like somewhat riskier, but I think in GPP he's gonna be pretty low owned due to that first week low fantasy output. All right, Darrell Henderson. Coming up with Darrell Henderson. He is a good play because he's a value play. I mean, with the Rams offense, he's gonna get some goal line carries. Like, I mean, if he falls into the end zone like once or twice, he's pretty much got fantasy output. Cam Akers is basically non-existent on that offense. Maybe they'll incorporate him a little bit more this week, but I don't see that happening. I think he's still injured. I think he's not as talented as people think he really is. So Darrell Henderson, that's a good play right there. I'm not sure if I would play him in cash, but GPP, I would take a shot probably. Cooper Kupp, always play with Cooper Kupp if you have him in fantasy, but his price tag is a lot. And to be honest, there aren't too many running backs this week that are cheaper, so I might not have too many shares of Cooper Kupp. But he will give you like 30 points every game. I mean, it's just inevitable. Let's take a look at the stats. I mean, we don't even really need to, but I mean, just to reiterate, like 34.8 fantasy points, 15 targets. Like, you don't get that type of opportunity from pretty much any other player. I mean, there's a couple other players that I'm going to delve a little bit deeper on this week. But Cooper Kupp is the guy. He will be the main scorer. If I think in cash, he is a great play. But that price tag, it's just a little hefty. Let's move on to Allen Robinson. So this is a GPP play for sure because he's a little cheaper because he did absolutely nothing that first week. I mean, he had what was it, like 2 catches for 22 yards, I want to say. I've got him on like one of my fantasy teams. Oh, not even that. So I was just remembering the 2-2. One reception for 12 yards. Pretty pathetic. But I think Stafford, in the post-game interviews, he was talking about incorporating him into the offense more. I think he couldn't get open because the Bills secondary was so good against the Falcons. I think he's going to eat this week. I mean, I've got him in red because it's like I'm not going to have that many shares of him. But in GPP, he's sneaky. He's a sneaky play. Down to Tyler Higbee. So he's going to be my main tight end this week. I mean, there's not very many good tight ends on the slate. He wasn't like a freak of nature tight end, but I mean, let's just take a look at all the tight ends that are available. So you can see what they scored: 10 points. Kittle didn't play. Waller 11.9. I mean, you scroll down the list, 8.9, and he's one of the cheaper guys. Like, I mean, Conklin, I guess, maybe, but Higbee, my thing is he's got targets, 11 targets, 11. I mean, he is bound to catch more. A lot of those passes were kind of throwaway passes towards Higbee, but I think that he's going to do way better than 9 points this week. I mean, he needs to give us 12 points for a return, or 13 or something. So I think he's a great play. He's going to be in like pretty much all my lineups, so I'm actually going to just put him in this lineup just because I'm doing one. Just kind of like, I don't know, putting you guys through my thought process and who I'm going to pick. I'm actually going to pick Stafford, and then that's kind of like a sneaky stack with Higbee. So I'm not going to go Cooper Kupp, I don't think, just because I don't want to pay that hefty price tag, and we need to pay up for some running backs. Let's go back. All right, so Falcons in play. I'm not super high on the Falcons at all, just because, look, I mean, they're projected to score 18 points total. If you want to do a dart throw at Marcus Mariota, that could potentially be viable just because of that price. Let's take a look. He had like 20.8 fantasy points last week. He had a lot of rushing upside. Rushing upside is big in fantasy. Look, 72 yards. I mean, he really... I mean, his floor is low, so in cash he could be viable. I'm not really super high on him. I might have him in 1 or 2 lineups, but for the rest, nah, not really. Okay, so the other guy was Cordero Patterson. Let's look at Patterson. Rams D is good. Just FYI, he had 22 attempts, 5 targets. That's 27 opportunities. At $6,000, like, I don't really care how good the defense is. I mean, he's gonna return value. Like, I mean, he will. I mean, he's more of a cash game play for me, though, because his upside is not super, super high against the Rams. I think there's maybe a better option there for GPP type games. So let's keep going. All right, here we go. So we got Raiders, Cardinals. Over-under is 51. I think this is a very, very generous line for the Cardinals. I mean, the Raiders are, I think, a lot better of a team. The Cardinals showed absolutely nothing against the Chiefs in Week 1. Their defense was just horrific. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, let's look at this. So Patrick Mahomes threw for like 5 TDs and 360 yards. And who the fuck was he passing to? Sorry for my language. I mean, the main guy was Travis Kelce. And they've got like some kind of like run-of-the-mill kind of wide receiver room, but he really threw the crap out of the ball and scored a lot of fantasy points. So I think Derek Carr is actually a really good play. I'm kind of going a little bit out of order here, but Derek Carr, I mean, he will be a good play. I mean, $6,200 for Derek Carr. And then if he does even like close to what Mahomes did in Week 1, I think Mahomes had like 38 points, maybe more in Week 1. Let's double check. It depends on the bonus. So some platforms give you that +3 bonus for 300. Mahomes isn't on here this week. But yeah, it was like around 40 points, let's say. So if Derek Carr can even get 18 points, that's returning value, right? And that's what we want. So I think Derek Carr is really good. Another notable person, Josh Jacobs. He had a bad first week. That's fine. He was up against the Chargers D. I mean, their run D was ridiculous. Their D line is insane. I mean, their whole defense is just ridiculous. We saw how they played against the Chiefs. They shut them down. It was not even a close game. So, looking at Josh Jacobs, 10 attempts and 1 reception. So I think the Raiders will be winning this game by more than that 5.5 spread, and I think they will be running the ball a lot more than passing. I think that they will get an early lead, throwing the ball to Davante Adams. Davante Adams, best wide receiver on the slate this week by far, I think. I mean, he had the most targets out of any wide receiver with 17 targets. So I think a Derek Carr, Davante Adams stack in cash is a ridiculously good idea, and I will definitely have that as well. Anyway, back to Josh Jacobs. Brandon Bolden, doubtful. So he was the only other guy that was kind of siphoning yardage from Josh Jacobs. And so he got like a total of 10 fantasy points, right? So I think he got the TD. Yeah, and he had just a few attempts. So, I mean, but with him out, they're going to be using Josh Jacobs a lot more. And I think with the lead, they're going to be running the ball a lot more. So Josh Jacobs, bounce back week. He's too cheap. I don't expect like a 30-point week out of him, but I think he will break 20. Anyway, after Josh Jacobs, we got Darren Waller. So earlier I noted that Travis Kelce just destroyed Cardinals in week 1. Sorry, I did not get the actual stats here, but it was over 100 yards, over 8 receptions, and I think a TD. Travis Kelce got like 30-ish points. So Darren Waller, potential bounce back here. I think he's a great GPP play. If Kelce can destroy the Cardinals' secondary, I think Waller is a very similar type tight end. I mean, just elite. I think he will eat playing this Cardinals D. Okay, so on the Cardinals side of the ball, there's 23 points projected, right? I don't even think they will reach that 23 points. I just don't think they will. But Kyler Murray, post-game interview, is talking about incorporating Marquise Hollywood Brown in the lineup a little bit more. So let's go ahead and look at what he did week 1. So he had 14.3 fantasy points. Not really great, but I mean, I think Kyler Murray will be throwing the ball a lot more because they're going to be down. He's going to be targeting Marquise Brown more. I just feel like he's going to have a good game. I don't think he's a bad play. More of a GPP player than cash. I wouldn't really want to put him in too many cash lineups just because, I mean, 6 targets is not the type of volume that I'm looking for. But I think it will bump up. Maybe he'll get 8, 9 targets. Could possibly go for 100 yards in a TD. So could possibly be around like 30 points if this game is kind of panning out like I think it will. And then people might think I'm crazy, but Dortch. This dude, I mean, he was kind of unheard of before. Let's see. Let's throw his name in here. Greg Dortch, I believe his name is. So, yeah, he had 9 targets and 7 receptions and 63 yards. If he even gets in the end zone once, we're up to 20 points. I mean, his salary is just too low. I'm probably going to have him in pretty much all my lineups this week. I mean, Andy Isabella is out. Let's double check on that. Isabella, I looked up earlier. Yep, Andy Isabella is out. He's not huge in the offense, but it just increases his usage a little bit more with Dortch. Rondale Moore is out. So those 2 guys out, I think Dortch is the guy, the value play here. So I'm going to go ahead and throw him in as my wide receiver 1. And honestly, I'm going to throw in Davante Adams while we're at it because I love Davante Adams this week. So we got a decent remaining salary, $5,300 per. And then moving on, the other game total that we need to look at is this 45.5, but the Broncos are projected to win by 10. So if you look at the projected score, 28.25, and then the Broncos are only going to score 28.25 Broncos, 17.25 Texans. That's a weird game line, but I'm not the one making the numbers up. Vegas is. Because it's impossible to score a quarter of a point. Anyway, so yeah, 28 points projected. Russell Wilson went off kind of week one. I mean, it didn't really go off per se, but he played a good game. I mean, his quarterback rating 101.3, and then they had several goal line stops. The Seahawks did when they played. So I think Russell Wilson throws it into the end zone like one or more two times, because if they're not like running the ball, if they're gonna fumble the ball in the one, I think they're gonna use their quarterback. He's what, $250 million. I mean, they need to use him. I don't know what the coaching staff is doing over there with Russell Wilson, but they need to use him more. So I think Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy are insanely good priced. They're going to be targeted a lot this game. I think that these are both really good plays. Honestly, they're about the same. I think that Cortland Sutton is the number one. He's bigger. He runs better routes. Jerry Jeudy just happened to be open more that last game, so he got a little bit more fantasy output. But I think that they're going to really just destroy this Texans D with those wide receivers. And then I'm not sure if I'm going to add them to the lineup right now. I'm just going to see where we're at. And then, so these are just everybody, all the Broncos are good to play essentially. You got Javonte Williams. He had a bunch. He's more of that PPR type back. We didn't really know what it was going to be heading into the season. I mean, he only got 7 rushing attempts, which is kind of trash, but he got 12 targets. 12. That's a lot. 11 receptions. I mean, that's a ridiculously low floor just by PPR. I mean, that's 11 points to start with. So if he gets a TD, he's up at 26. Honestly, I'm going to go ahead and put him in my lineup right now just because he's looking good. Javonte Williams. And then moving on, Melvin Gordon got the goal line carries. So, yeah, that's like a iffy play for me with the Javonte Williams. But maybe they'll give the ball to Javonte Williams now that Melvin Gordon fumbled it on the one and he didn't look like that goal line back that he was supposed to be. But on the other hand, Melvin Gordon could still be that goal line back. So I have him in just for good mention. I've got a preference for Javonte Williams just based on the price. And then Albert Ogwebenom. I think I said that right. That's impressive. He is a play. I mean, he's low. He's like a low price tight end. I mean, he had an okay game. Nothing spectacular, but I mean, he got 8.3 points. I mean, in cash, I think he's totally viable. 6 targets, 5 receptions. I think that Russell Wilson really targets his tight ends. I mean, you could see when Everett was there last year, Everett was getting a ton of targets from Russell Wilson. So I think he's a pretty decent cash play as well if you really need a budget tight end. But in my opinion, Higbee a little bit better. He's at the edge for me this game. All right, so moving on, Texans in play, 100% Brandon Cooks. We're putting Brandon Cooks in the lineup right now. He's going to be targeted like crazy. I mean, he only got 15 points last week, which is great because it kept the price low. 12 targets, another one of those guys, huge volume opportunities. I mean, he got 82 yards. If he breaks 18 more yards, that's the +3. If he gets a TD, that's 6 more points. So, I mean, just add, if he does have a good game, just add the 10 points on it there. 25 points for $6,000. I'm going Brandon Cooks. They're going to be passing the ball. They're going to be down. I just see Brandon Cooks having a good game. I mean, that's just how I look at it. So we're actually doing really well on salary right now, which is pretty great. I think this lineup is looking very good so far. I mean, we've got some pretty powerhouse guys in there. All right, and then moving on to my honorable mentions. The other point totals weren't as high. There are a couple other guys that I'm pretty high on as well, so let's go over them briefly. Tyreek Hill, he had a really good game first week. I think that he is going to be the offense for the Dolphins. Let's do a quick search on Tyreek Hill. Yeah, only 18 points, but 12 targets again. I mean, this is what we're looking for. 12 targets, 94 yards, gets 6 more yards, gets a 3-point bonus, gets a touchdown, another 6 points. So he had the potential to end up getting like 28 points if he would have just had one more catch for 6 yards and a touchdown. I mean, you got to look at the potential, the opportunity, and the fact that his fantasy output first week was only 18 points, so that's factored in. So, but potentially he could have had like a 28-point game. So I think Tyreek Hill's in play for sure. And then we got Jamar Chase. So Jamar Chase is a good play this week because I think T. Higgins is still dealing with that concussion. I'm not sure if he's going to play. It says questionable. But I mean, coming back a week after a concussion, they're probably going to limit his usage. I mean, that's just how I see it. And I mean, he's a great player, but I think Jamar Chase is really going to stand out this week. Dallas, Dak Prescott is out. I mean, he broke his finger. They have Cooper Rush in there. Cooper Rush, I mean, nothing bad against the guy, but he's not Dak Prescott. So I know he does have a little bit of rushing upside. He's probably going to throw the ball a little bit, but they're probably going to rely on Zeke, and I think the Bengals D shuts them down. And on that note, we are going with the Bengals D because it's one of the cheapest on the slate. I just think Cooper Rush makes some mistakes, and this defense is too cheap to pass up. All right, so here we go. Oh, boom! Look at that. Look at who just popped up as our final pick for the flex position. That's beautiful. We talked about him earlier. This will be my lineup. I love it. And then let me just finish talking about these guys so I can overview all these picks. Christian Kirk, that's another good play. He will be doing well. I mean, he's obviously the number one guy. Let's look at the volume again. 20 points, right? 12 targets. I mean, if he catches just a few more passes on those 12 targets, he already had a freakishly good game. I mean, if he gets a TD, he's 5,700. I mean, he's got to be a play in pretty much like all your lineups as well. I don't really want him in this like GPP lineup because I already love this one. I'll probably throw him in a different one. And then we got Michael Thomas. He had a really good first week. I mean, I'm happy for Michael Thomas, to be honest. I thought he was washed. Hopefully he maintains this output, but against the Bucs, he's a little iffy. But I mean, he had 5 receptions, 57 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He probably won't. See, that's the thing. When you look at these guys, 2 touchdowns, that's not maintainable, essentially. Like, if he had 12 targets or more, I mean, he would be a must play for sure. But I mean, you can't have 2 touchdowns every week. I mean, you could, but like that's probably not going to happen, especially against this Bucs offense. So I mean, he potentially could have a few more targets based on how good he did at that first game. He's definitely in play for some cash games, but he's not my favorite. But he's definitely in play. DJ Moore, I'm a Panthers fan. I got to include DJ Moore. Look at that price tag, just too low. I mean, Baker had a bad first half. Like, I mean, if you watch the Panthers game, he had a bad first half. He was fumbling the ball. He even fumbled the ball a couple times in the second half. I mean, he didn't turn it over, but he looked, I don't know, like he was a deer in headlights the whole game. I don't know what was going on with Baker. It was probably just a lot of pressure playing the Browns. Their defense is good, but DJ Moore, like, he's the guy. I mean, he's the guy on the Panthers. You know what I mean? He's going to be the number 1 targeted guy. He's going to be looked at every single time. He's the first read. I think that DJ Moore has a bounce back week here against the Giants. I mean, I really do. I think that Baker is going to understand that he needs to incorporate Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore in the game more if we're going to want to win. So I think DJ Moore is definitely a good price for GPP. So I would take him into consideration for sure. Rashad Bateman, he's honorable mention as well. So let's take a look. He had like a long bomb touchdown. He only had 5 targets, but I see that going up. I mean, I think that Bateman is the best talented wide receiver over there. It's a consensus basically across a lot of like fantasy football gurus, and I think that he will have a good game. I mean, I think that this one's going to be pretty high scoring as well. It's going to be higher than the point total. So Bateman, definitely put him into consideration. For running backs, so there's really good like fantasy options for running backs, but none of them are really that cheap. So Saquon, we were just talking about the Panthers game. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, that was the entire offense for the Browns. It seemed like the Panthers' run D was not really there. It's unfortunate being a Panthers fan, just watching that. I mean, our defense was supposed to be like our saving grace, but if we can't get anything done on offense, then I mean, our defense is going to get tired. So Saquon, 36 fantasy points. I mean, we got destroyed week 1 by the Browns running game. So Saquon should be in your lineups for sure. I thought he was washed too, but apparently not. Then we got Jeff Wilson Jr. With Elijah Mitchell out. I think that is probably the best value running back on the slate. If you need to go cheaper for one running back, I would go ahead and do Jeff Wilson because the 49ers, that offense is based around the run. I mean, they will just be running the ball nonstop. I can't remember who they're playing. I think I want to say, let's see. Seahawks. Yeah, I mean, that should be like, I mean, I think the Niners will probably win that game, and I think they're going to be running the majority of the time. So he's definitely a good play, good value play. He could potentially have 100 rushing yards and a couple touchdowns. Leonard Fournette. All right, let's talk about Leonard Fournette. I hate and love Leonard Fournette. He's on my fantasy team. Well, one of my main fantasy teams. He is a beast. I mean, he had so many targets. First game, I mean, 21 rushing opportunities. He only had 2 targets, huh? I thought he had more, but he caught both of them. I think that he's going to get a lot of quick passes. Everybody knows Bucs' offensive line is banged up. Their whole receiving core is pretty much banged up. I mean, let's narrow this search down real quick. Let me find the Bucs, Tampa Bay, and then we got. So let's go. All right, look at this receiving core. Questionable, out, questionable. I mean, who are they going to be passing the ball to? I mean, I think they're all going to play, but I mean, they're just. It's not looking good for the Bucs offense this game. I think the Saints actually pull out the upset, but Fournette, they're all banged up. But Fournette, I mean, if he plays, he will eat. I mean, he will get targets. The offensive line isn't going to be holding Brady in the pocket too long. He's going to need to dump it out to Fournette. He loves targeting Fournette. And then if Fournette is out, Rachaad White is the smash play. I mean, 4,500. I doubt Fournette's out. I mean, he hurt his like hamstring or something. Yeah. So I don't know. He could be nursing that. Rachaad White could be a sneaky play. I would just keep an eye on that if he's out. So Joe Mixon, let's look at this real quick. So the Bengals are projected to win by a large margin. I don't have the numbers right here, but I know they're projected to win. I think it's by like 7. But I think it's going to be more than that because without Dak, I mean, they look bad with Dak. So I can only imagine like what they're going to look like without Dak. If I'm wrong about this and Cooper Rush is like shows up and plays well, then I apologize. But Joe Mixon, I think he's a good play. I mean, he's a little expensive. 27 rush attempts. Jeez, dude. I didn't even look at that. 9 targets. I mean, yeah, ridiculous. Like, if he gets a TD, I mean, it's over with for him. I think Joe Mixon's great. Joe Mixon should be in most of your lineups. Just going up against the Cowboys, they will be running the ball, running down the clock. When they get that lead, they're going to just want to win the game. So Joe Mixon is going to be one of the guys. Lots of good running back options. Honorable mention tight end, Dalton Schultz. One common theme that I see with backup quarterbacks, they like to target the tight end because they're big guys, they got good hands. It's harder to throw picks when you're throwing to the tight ends, and I mean they're just reliable. So Dalton Schultz could be a sneaky play. I'm not super high on him just because I don't know the rapport between Cooper Rush and Dalton Schultz that well, but I think that that should be a good play. All right, moving on to some value plays. I don't have way too many value plays this week. I mean, some of these are value plays in here, like Dortch, and then Webenom, and then Higbee. So I got like 3 value plays. We got Devin Duvernay. He had a great first week. I'm not sure if he's going to maintain that type of play. So he got 21 points. I mean, at $4,000, if he does anything close to that, I mean, he'll be a good play. But like I said, 2 touchdowns, not super maintainable. But he could be the guy. I mean, he or Rashad Bateman could be the guy. Like, Lamar Jackson's got to pass the ball to somebody. I think Duvernay's pretty talented. So I think he's a good play for the price for sure. All he needs is 12 fantasy points to return value. And then Noah Brown. This is kind of a weird play, but I mean, the Cowboys. So there's like this thing that I've seen that happens a lot when these backup quarterbacks go in. Not only do they throw it to the tight end a lot, they also the backup quarterbacks work in with kind of the backup wide receivers a lot in preseason. So they build this rapport with them. So you can see he was targeted 9 times, right? And then he got 5 receptions for 11.8 yards. So at that price tag, that's really good. But yeah, these backup quarterbacks, they know these second string type wide receivers, and with I think I want to say Gallup is out again. He is. I mean, they don't really have that many people to pass to. CeeDee Lamb, I mean, he's too high priced. I mean, Noah Brown will be. I think he'll have a better game than CeeDee Lamb. I mean, that's kind of speculative, but that's just how I see it. I think he's a good sneaky play for cheap. Richie James Jr. You're like, who the hell is that? Me too. I just found him kind of lower in the cost because I was like, who would be a good cheap guy? So Richie James Jr. 3,200. I mean, he's got to do nothing to return value, right? He's got to get like 10 points essentially, and he got 11 points in that first game, 6 targets. I mean, if he gets 6 targets again, 5 catches for 10 yards apiece, boom, he's got value for you. So could be sneaky. The Panthers, I mean, their secondary is okay, but we had some blown coverages that were just bad. Like, I mean, Jacoby Brissett, if that was Deshaun Watson in that game against the Panthers, we would have been destroyed, like absolutely destroyed. I mean, it wasn't even really that close until the end, but it would have been like a blowout, I think, with Deshaun Watson as the quarterback. Brissett was just throwing just ducks up in the air. Our secondary wasn't even picking the ball. We were getting pass interference calls. Anyway, yeah, I think our defense is just shot. Like, it's supposed to be good. I mean, we got J.C. Horn, Dante Jackson. We got like some pretty good guys like out in that secondary, and I think they're overrated. At least that's what they're showing me so far. Richie James Jr., my last guy to talk about. I think he'll be a good play for the most part. I mean, I wouldn't like throw him in your like every single lineup, but definitely get some exposure to him. And we'll see how he does. I mean, that's it for me. I love talking fantasy football. I mean, I just talk my butt off for I don't even know how long. It's probably over 20 minutes. I was trying to keep this pretty short, but I love doing this. Let me know in the comments if you reached this far, and let me know if what game you're most excited to see this weekend. I mean, I think the game I'm most excited to see is the Lions and the Commanders. Who would say that? But yeah, let me know in the comment section what team you were most excited to watch this week, and let me know what players that you picked out of my lineups that did well last week. Just keep tuning in. I'm going to keep making these videos. I really appreciate everybody who watches these videos, who subscribes, who likes, who comments. I'm not sure if I'm trying to make it super big in YouTube, but this is like a fun hobby for me, and if I can help other people, I'm totally about it. And honestly, doing like the due diligence, making this whole sheet right here, I mean, it's helping me understand the game better, and really putting a methodical, statistical aspect to fantasy football, which should be utilized if you're going to be successful. So yeah, let me know if this video has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I will be back probably Sunday night to go over what happened throughout the day, and then I will talk about that Monday night slate. I'll probably do a showdown for you guys on that, or I'll do like a Monday, Thursday type slate. So thank you so much for watching. This has been fun. Yeah, have a good one.